Good evening again. My name is Rick Bowden, and I am president of the Pinckney Putnam Hamburg Hill Chamber of Commerce. We're doing a candidates forum on October 12th. Many of you are probably watching this recorded, and it'll be shared on social media so that people can be informed voters for the November 3rd election. We've got a whole bunch of segments that we've been doing, and we're getting down there closer towards the end, and I know we've got some patient people in the audience, so we appreciate those others. So, but the next candidate we have as the next position is for the county treasurer, and there are two candidates. Dan Luria is the Democratic candidate, and Jennifer Geringer Nash is the incumbent Republican. She is not with us tonight, so Dan, you're all on your own. So if you can give us about 4 or 5 minutes to give us your position, and then we'll see if we've got any questions from the audience.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Rick, and the Chamber for staging this event. I do want to make some comments about the event. I think that we should probably limit the questions to 2 or 3 per candidate so that these forums don't go on interminably with a smaller and smaller audience. The other problem I'm noticing is that the same 2 or 3 people are submitting the questions, so this has ended up being essentially a conversation between candidates and just a few questioners who are active in one of the 2 political parties. Anyway, my brief statement, you can see I don't have any notes or formal statement. I'm running for treasurer for 2 reasons. One, clerk candidate Jordan Genso explained that the treasurer is one of 5 members of the committee that will draw the new county districts after the results of the 2020 census are finalized, and I want to work with him and our prosecutor candidate Reagan Lake to make sure that the districts are not gerrymandered as they were in 2011. I'm also pretty qualified to do this. I'm a PhD economist. I had a long career in which I served not only as a vice president of research, but for a number of years as the CFO of an $8 million company. I took it from serious financial problems to multiple clean audits. I'm actually running not because I believe that Jennifer Nash, who bizarrely I've never met, because not only did she not appear at this event, she didn't even appear in the League of Women Voters Zoom forum earlier, and she doesn't attend county commission meetings, which I try to attend regularly when they had them in person, and religiously now that they're on Zoom. And I think that she and the county administrator, both when the late Ken Hinton was in that role and now that Nathan Bird is in that position, they do their job perfectly well in a workmanlike fashion. But to be clear, the politics of the county are dominated by a small club. And that is a club which is basically a combination of Lana and Sam Tice, and now Joe Riker as clerk, taking Ann Boland's place. And you can see, as my friend Bob Mazat learned, that if you're not in the club, you're out of the club. And my opponent is a junior member of that club. When Megan Reckling took on Bob Mazat, Jennifer Nash was one of the first people to endorse her. She's very close to Betsy Hundley, who is, of course, Megan Reckling's mother. So this is a very small inbred club fueled by insurance lobby money to the Tices, as well as from the Kochs' various PACs. So I think I could do the job as well, and moreover, because I'm not part of the club, there are things that could be brought to people's attention that are not being today. So for example, there is, as there was 2 years ago and 4 years ago, more than $40 million in the delinquent tax revolving fund. The county can acquire funds between 1% and 3% and then charge delinquent homeowners 6 to 18% interest rates plus penalty. And that's a huge fund that's been built up, and it's essentially a slush fund. Similarly, the veterans millage, which collects slightly over $1 million a year, has been spending only between $450,000 and $700,000 a year, having built up almost $1.4 million in invested reserves. So despite the reputation of the county as being low tax, and of course being low tax means you don't get many services, we're actually paying more taxes than we need to, because we built up these big slush funds, which are pretty much useful to the county only as a way to keep its AAA bond rating, which isn't very important because it doesn't borrow very much money. And meanwhile, we have all these problems that are going unaddressed. I see one of the common questioners has prepared another. We have problems with a growing number of seniors, who are going to be 45% of the county households will have a senior by 2035. We have very few services for seniors compared to comparable sized counties. We still have road and bridge problems, which the state bond program is unlikely to fully address. We have a rural broadband problem, which Donnie Bettis just brought to your attention. And a whole set of issues that are not going to get resolved until we stop basically congratulating ourselves for not taxing anybody very much, even though we're taxing them more than we need to, and start thinking about what services is the county going to need to be the kind of place that people want to stay in and move to. And as treasurer, because I'm not a member of that club, I will constantly bring to the public's attention issues where the county is basically collecting taxes and not using them for the benefit of the residents. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Dan, since you're the only one here, you're the only one who gets to answer questions. First question is, you had talked about the gerrymandering and one of the reasons you wanted to be on that commission. And the question is how is a county commission district gerrymandered if Republicans won every municipality?
Well, it's entirely possible that with fair districts, Republicans would continue to win every seat. We're not running because we're trying to gerrymander it. We are aware of the fact that this is a 60-40 Republican county. We don't expect that all of us are going to get elected, so it's very likely that the majority of that committee are going to be Republicans. But what we're trying to do is at least get Republicans to understand that there's a fair way to draw districts. And if they're confident that they can win in every township and in every fairly drawn district, then they should have no objection to drawing the districts in a fashion that comports with state law.
Okay. The next question is, what changes would you make if you were elected to the treasurer's office?
I don't see very many changes that need to be made to the basic operations of the treasurer's office, although I think that the office needs to work much more closely with the county administrator. A number of times I tried to get information through Freedom of Information Act filings from the treasurer's office, and almost every time they were unable to answer the question and had to refer it to the county administrator. To me, that bespeaks a certain level of amateurism in the treasurer's office.
Okay. Next question is, what do you know about municipal accounting?
I know a fair amount because when I was CFO of the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, roughly 70% of our funding came from state and federal sources. So I'm well acquainted with federal audits, and we also had substantial reserves that I was in charge of investing. I have a clear understanding of how the county invests. I have some issues with the relatively low rates of return they're getting, even though they have roughly 10% of their funds invested in hedge funds and family funds. And I think I could do at least as good a job as the current treasurer, working with the county administrator to find better opportunities in corporate bonds and munis than the county's been finding up to this point.
Okay. Dan, can you give us a wrap-up as to why people should vote for you?
I think it's time to break out of the club. And I think that this isn't just a partisan issue. I think that people in the Republican Party need to understand that it's no longer representing all Republicans, that it's become an elite organization that's pretty much focused on Brighton Township and elected representatives there, and that as my friend Bob Bazat has learned, if you cross that subgroup of the party, there could be hell to pay. Bob survived that primary, but I'm confident that were my opponent Jennifer Nash to start making the public aware of the low levels of spending relative to taxation that I've talked about tonight, she would find herself facing a primary challenge quite quickly.
Okay. That concludes our next segment. This was our treasurer candidate, Dan Luria, for the Democratic position for county treasurer.